The only place to play Pit Fighter at home during the early 1990s was on the Sega Mega Drive. Working within the limitations of the hardware, the team behind this port did an absolutely fantastic job of capturing the look and feel of the arcade original. So much so that I would almost go as far as to say that this version of Pit Fighter is the definitive revision.
Okay, USA. Okay, USA.
But I would hesitate in ennobling the Mega Drive version, as there are some features from the arcade which are unfortunately missing. One of the big draws of the arcade original was the 3-player mode. For obvious reasons, this isn't available on the Mega Drive. But fortunately, it's still possible for 2 players to kick some simultaneous arse. Having said that though, if you and your buddy have the same favourite character, you cannot kick any arse with that character simultaneously. It's common knowledge that hands down Ty is the best character in the game, so maybe you can relive the arcade days and have a proper punch-up to decide who gets to use Ty. Or maybe you could learn how to play Buzz, as he's not wafery thin like Kato.
Very good. But brick, not hit back.
The cosmetic nature of some of the limitations actually helped to improve the gameplay over the arcade original. For example, whilst the sprites are certainly not as detailed or colourful when compared to their arcade counterparts, they also take up way less screen space, which actually turns out to be a beneficial side effect. The huge lifelike sprites might have been an essential part of the original coin-op's wow factor back in 1990, but those huge sprites and screen scaling effects really hindered the gameplay and caused some slowdown at times. The combat zone can feel quite constricted with everything being on top of each other, especially when there's multiple objects on the screen. But with the static sprite sizes on the Mega Drive version, there's now plenty of room to move around the combat zone, which means it's easier to create some distance between you and your opponent as and when you require it. The game also runs super smooth and feels a lot more responsive than the arcade version due to this too. The sound is absolutely awesome for a Mega Drive game, and the sampled speech is fairly close to the quality of the arcade version too. Although some of the stage music is missing, the tunes that have made it onto the cartridge sound almost like they've come ripped straight from the arcade. And of course the most important aspect, the gameplay, seems to have been transferred directly from the arcade, but with the added bonus of some welcome improvements. For a start, after connecting with a special move, you are no longer forced to watch your character stand idle, smugly flexing his muscles, which throw away your advantage. Now you can cancel out these animations with a quick double tap of the joypad, essentially dashing, to cartwheel or roll towards an opponent and deal out some extra damage before they know what's hit them. It's actually possible to cancel out of any animation in the game using the dash, which means you can stick a move around the pit fighting arena like never before. So in conclusion, with an amalgamation of late 80s martial arts movies like Bloodsport and Lionheart, with the brawling gameplay of early arcade titles like Renegade and Double Dragon, Pit Fighter on the Mega Drive is a glorious triumph. It's an absolute steroid-loaded, testosterone-fueled cheese fest, and although by today's standards it may have stretched its spandex to the absolute breaking point, it's still an all-out riot with 2 players.
What? Think you can give me some competition?
With quality beat-em-ups being particularly thin on the ground for the Mega Drive, this is definitely a title you'll want for your collection if you're a fan of the genre. It's a cult classic, that you can pick up relatively cheaply nowadays, and if you spend some time getting handy with the mechanics, I've no doubt that this game will be in your gaming rotation for a while, especially if you have friends over for tea.